interesting story from Chandler Rome about Framber Valdez.
Correct.
That Framber, I don't know if it means he's unhappy with Yainer Diaz a week and a half into spring training or whatever it's been, but Framber is going to call some of his own pitches this upcoming season, which I don't know, seems like a bad idea was the first thing I thought.
So per Chandler's article, he wants to use the PitchCom device so that he can have input on the calls that are being made on a pitch-by-pitch basis. I don't know if he's going to do it for every single pitch. He says he envisions a combination of him and the catcher calling pitches, which is how Josh Hader has operated in the past. And look, I'm all for trying new things. If you continue to read the article, it highlights how Framber was really easy to steal on last year. But, I mean, we both, I think, Joe, look at Framber Valdez as a guy who is not always all there up there.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
He's mentally weak.
I won't go that far, but
I will.
When he has meltdowns, he has meltdowns.
I mean, look, the fact that every single time a dribbler goes out in front of the plate and he runs to go grab it and throw it to first, it turns into a blooper reel.
Those are brain farts.
I mean,
it's just
brutal.
your routine brain fart. Yeah, he's not a great fielder. But as far as this, it does just remind me, Joe, of the fact that this is probably the guy whose success or failure is going to go the longest way in terms of determining whether or not the Astros are back in a World Series or win a World Series, because his inconsistency over the course of the regular season was annoying, especially when he had his meltdown. Sure, he had a no-hitter. And in the playoffs, he sucked.
Yeah, he was not good. And I agree with you that is Framber Valdez the biggest what if for an Astros World Series run? That's the question.
I think so.
And I agree with you, because you have to have an ace. The two World Series championships the Astros had, they had an ace pitcher going at both times. Getting to the World Series the other times, they had an ace at all times. I don't think Justin Verlander at this point in his career is going to be that guy. If he has a 3.25, a 3.4 ERA this year and is what he was last year, I'm happy. Christian Javier, he can be great, but is he an ace?
I think Javier can be an ace, but last year was a step in the wrong direction.
I hope so.
Hopefully a year of dealing with the new pitch clock for all of these guys is going to make them a little bit more acclimated to it. I think Javier's got absolutely filthy stuff. But right now, the guy who you have seen be the most consistent pitcher on the Astros in the not-too-distant past was Framber Valdez. Remember that consecutive start streak that he had of quality starts? Mm-hmm. So you know he is capable of doing it, but the problem was last year, for whatever reason, he just seemed to get in his head a lot, and now you're going into a year where the guy who has been calling all of his games for the longest time, Martin Maldonado, is gone. And Team Maldi, stand up now, because, all right, that's the guy who was catching all 210 of Valdez's innings last year. And is this the reason that Framber is deciding all of a sudden he wants to use the pitch clock, or excuse me, the PitchCom, and to basically go back and forth with the catcher to determine pitches? He says no, but I have a hard time believing that that isn't the reason that he's going to do it. And I also just get a little nervous about Framber Valdez without Martin Maldonado, because it does seem that he's a little bit erratic up there. I mean, this is a guy who needs to have specific jerseys on, it seems like, every single start he's out there.
I mean, he literally wore the Sunday Blues were no longer Sunday Blues because they wore them whenever Framber wore them. And it was, if they wore the Space City jerseys or the gold jerseys last year to start the season, it was like, well, can Framber handle this? Can Framber be okay?
Right, which is ridiculous.
Because at the same time, it's not like Martin Maldonado did exactly the best job keeping him under control, because, well, we all saw what Framber was.
True.
You get a runner on first and second base, and he has a complete meltdown.
But if that was him with Maldi, what's he going to be like with a catcher in his first year as the number one guy, or with a new catcher, Victor Caratini, as the backup, if that occasionally happens?
I know, Paul, I come from a show that, They don't believe in mound visits, that they joke about mound visits all the time. But it was mostly, in my opinion, Carlos Correa that the year before, back in 2021 and before that, I felt like he did get to Framber the best. Like you would see Correa scream at Framber, and for some reason it would work. But Framber last year had a very good first half of the season. The second half of the season is honestly when everything fell apart.
Yes.
Like, yes, they trade for Justin Verlander that same day. He throws a no-hitter, one of the coolest days ever in Astros history.
But it was sandwiched in between his meltdown against the Rangers and Mariners. I forget which one happened first, and I'm surprised that he didn't get tossed from either of them because there was precedent the second time around, and it was very clear that since he was getting shelved that, he just decided to throw at people's heads.
And it honestly felt like that last year when Dusty Baker decided not to let Framber Valdez start the All-Star game, that's kind of when things started to unravel. It seems stupid, but you have a guy on short rest, and you have Framber Valdez who that had to mean something to him. And Dusty Baker chose a different pitcher on short rest than Garrett Cole to start the All-Star game over Framber.
To what you said about it seeming stupid, with Framber, everything that you would believe to be stupid, you can't rule it out as an actual factor in his mood, his confidence. And that's why when he's on his A game, he's great. But we have seen him struggle in the postseason 2 of the last 3 years. And on top of that, this is a guy that is probably the Astros ace. If he can get back to the guy that he was 2 years ago, if he was that guy last year, in fact, I mean, the Astros are probably in the World Series, and they're also probably beating the Arizona Diamondbacks.
Yeah, without a doubt. They're back-to-back World Series champions. So, to the question of, is Framber the biggest what if for an Astros World Series run? Absolutely.
That's where I'm at.
Because if he is what you said, a Cy Young, he was the betting favorite at one point last year to win the Cy Young. So if he can be that guy more consistently throughout the season into the postseason, the Astros have a really good chance to go back to the World Series this year. And if I'm Framber Valdez and the Astros organization, this season is one of the most important seasons that they have for him because we've spent so much time and on this station, all of us talking about Kyle Tucker and Alex Bregman and contract extensions. And Framber kind of just getting forgot about. Like he's also up in 2025 when Kyle Tucker is. So if you're going to extend Framber, a Cy Young level season, even if he doesn't win it, and another World Series run would make me feel a lot better about giving him that contract extension. Because right now, Paul, I have zero interest in giving a dime to Framber Valdez when his contract runs out.
1, if this season's a disaster, I'm looking to trade him. I don't know how much I'd get in return for him. 2, okay, you're saying that about the contract. I don't even feel confident giving him the pitch comm ability. I don't feel confident giving a pitcher the same kind of reign as a Josh Hader, because Josh Hader's the other pitcher who has actually done this before. You're just going to do this on the spot going into this season. How's that going to work? How's that going to work, especially when you talk about a pitch clock where if there's some disagreements between the catcher and pitcher, is that going to lead to a couple extra balls that are unnecessary? These are all things that we should be thinking about. And I'll be honest, it makes me a little bit less confident in Framber being able to be better than he was last year if he's adding this to his play. Could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But I'm not. I don't like putting more on Framber's plate.
No, well, and regardless, the second something goes wrong, this is the headline. This is the story. This is the A topic the next day of, is Framber Valdez capable of calling his own game? He just gave up 8 runs to the New York Yankees on opening day. Or is it Yainer Diaz's fault? These are the stories that have now written themselves the moment he falters.
There's nowhere Dusty to get mad at.
Like, it's not Framber.
Now we got to get mad at something else.
I think we're mad at Framber now.
Put a list together and we'll just get mad at all of it.
I actually was thinking about that for next week. Like, just call our shot. Like, what are people going to be most triggered by this season? And this is now going to be at the top of the list.
I would think so too.
Because, does it say anything to you about his relationship at all, about Yainer right away? You think his confidence in Yainer to call a game?
I don't think it has to do with that. I bet this was something over the offseason that he thought to himself, you know what? This is going to make me feel better on a pitch-by-pitch basis. And okay, you know what? That actually might be the case. We have not seen it in action yet, so let's give him the benefit of the doubt to a degree. But at the same time, it feels like with the pitch clock being a thing already, and on top of that, just with the times that it seems like he loses control upstairs, I would not bet on things being significantly better based off of him adding this to his repertoire.
Yeah, because that's where I give him the benefit of the doubt when things are going well. My biggest question is with just what we've seen, and it's not even a question, it's just I have no confidence that in a moment of stress with runners on first and third and no outs, that Framber Valdez is going to be able to call a quality game and keep his composure himself in that moment. It feels like a recipe for disaster. I hope I'm wrong too. Like I hope that he wins the Cy Young this year. Last year,
We all do.
I'm not going to purchase a Cy Young ticket for Framber Valdez at this moment.
No, you won't.
I had one for Javier last year.
You did have one for Javier.
Yeah, it didn't work out for me.
How much you put on it?
Not much. I only go like 50 on futures usually.
Okay, that's a lot for
Yeah,
futures.
20 to 50 for futures. I don't go heavy on futures.
You can't bet on an Astro to win an award. They're not going to give it to him.
Yeah, but they win a lot of awards.
Yeah, but they're not going to give him the MVP or the Cy Young again. I know they just gave Verlander the Cy Young, but I feel like those were like, oh my God, he's 30 odd.
I mean, he was
has a
so good.
1.4 ERA.
He came off the Tommy John. It was a good story.